great humility and appreciation, and with a great sense that they belong to my ancestors, especially the women in my family. So, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Byrd.
Good morning, Marsha. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, thanks.
Yeah, still standing.
Yes,
That's a big part, right?
that's a very big part. That's a
Mm-hmm.
very big part. Still standing.
Still standing. And it's a wonderful thing because a whole bunch of folks aren't doing that today.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's
We have to
exactly
be
right.
thankful. Yeah, we have to
So
be
I'm
thankful.
glad to be a part of that.
Right. No question. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So what's going on in your world, David Byrd?
You know what? Things are going fairly well. I don't
Okay.
have any complaints. I've got a couple of clients. I'm taking care of them. I'm doing some executive search consulting. One of my clients just hired one of my recommendations. Very happy about that. Great candidate, lawyer. They were looking for lawyers, and so this young man is just he's on the upswing in his career. So I was glad to see that, and I'm doing some other work, some coaching with some nonprofits. So I don't have any complaints.
That's nice. But let's talk about that coaching business. How did you get involved in it and what's the outcome for the coaching? What happens? How do you get your client involved in it? What do they need or what is it that you provide?
Well, it's different for different clients. It depends on what they're asking for. What I try to do is meet clients where they are. Um, I got started in the coaching by accident. I was asked almost 10 years ago, I was asked to fill in for somebody who was on medical leave. I wasn't a coach at the time, but somebody just thought that I was a coach in the sense that they said because of my ability, they thought I was a coach. So I stepped in for what was only supposed to be 8 weeks, and it turned out to be 8 months. And so from there, I just decided to get my coaching certification. And then I got an opportunity to coach homeless families and individuals in homeless shelters in DC. Then I got a chance to work with incarcerated youth
Mm,
between the ages of 13 and 17. And I tell people all the time that all I saw behind bars was black and brown young men. That's all I saw.
mhm.
And I was convinced, if I was never convinced before, that convinced me that if those families, if the families of those young men had access to decent legal assistance, not even the best, just decent legal assistance, half of them wouldn't be there, which shows again the imbalance of our criminal justice system, right? If you have access to resources, you can defend yourself against whatever in court, as opposed to if you don't have access to the legal system, you're at the mercy
Right,
of the justice system.
right.
And so what I've done is I've done everything from develop a curriculum. I work with a couple of nonprofits that want me to work with their executives on how to communicate better to employees,
Mhm.
how to developing them as leaders. What does it mean to exhibit leadership qualities in an organization? How to communicate more effectively. So I just try to meet people where they are, and I also use my coaching in my executive search assignments. Is that I see myself, although I represent a client trying to find a candidate, I always coach the candidates in their interviews and before their interviews. So I want the best version of them to show up for the interview, because this is a reflection of me. I went and recruited them because I thought they were an excellent candidate. So
Mhm.
on interview day or the day of the interview, I want the best version of them to show up.
And that's huge because that people don't even realize what I used to say all the time. People don't know what they don't know. And so until they really get a thorough understanding of how an organization or a corporation or a new division head, you have to really navigate trying to get information from people to help you build whatever it is that you want to be a consultant or to have a new job with a title, a president or a vice president. You really have to be prepared for it. I think one of the things that was really interesting in looking at in my life, just watching the people grow, friends that you've known for a long time, and different people have contacted me. I guess because I got all this gray hair. so but the conversation is really important because there are things that we need to be able to share. I would really almost look for an opportunity for us to say once a month we just bring some young people together and some seniors together to be able to discuss how you're supposed to move forward, how you're supposed to navigate corporations. If you're in the military, how to navigate that whole military infrastructure. And it's more than a notion. It's not just, okay, I got the books, I got the degree, or I don't have the degree, but I've got the smarts. You've got to navigate it to the point where you can actually communicate what's necessary for you or for your clients to be able to grow and learn.
Yeah, and I would even go further, Marsha, in that one of the key things is listen. There's an old adage: you have two ears and one mouth because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak. But one of the things I've learned in clients and coaching, and I'm able to figure some things out by listening, is that sometimes clients don't know what they want or they think they do, and candidates the same way. And it's I find it very fascinating. I think one of the reasons I like coaching and executive search work is that clients do things I think they shouldn't do, and then they don't do things I think they should. And it's very fascinating I always get surprised by clients, always get surprised because they don't interview people they should. They don't they don't speak to people, or they don't follow up, or they don't see the signs. And sometimes I have to point out contradictions in their own thinking. They'll make a statement and I'll say, well, that's not really so. Why would you think that? And the job of someone like myself as a coach is I'm supposed to call people out on that.
But people don't want to hear it all the time.
Well,
That's part of the challenge,
yes,
right?
that's exactly right. I give you a great example. So recently I had a client, first interview with the candidate went great. They love the guy. They're in love with him. So they invite him for lunch. It doesn't go well, right? But here's the interesting thing. I wasn't there. So the client says it didn't go well. The candidate says it went well. Why the disconnect? What happened? I talked to both sides. I can't figure it out. So the candidate says, hey, I'm going to be in town. I just happen to be in town for a seminar. Like to come by, right? the client has already made up their mind and said, hey, the second interview didn't go well. And so I say to the client, why wouldn't you want to, if the guy's going to be in town, why wouldn't you want to delay your decision to say, the first one went super, second one didn't. Let's have a third one to see what's what.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They decided not to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's their choice. I disagreed with it, but that's their choice, right? But my thing is, first one went well. Second one, you say it didn't. He said it did. You know, and there's no I can't figure. It's almost like a judge in municipal court, right? When you go contest a parking ticket, police officer says this happened. You say this happened. How does the judge figure it out?
Right. That's exactly right. And it is a piece where you have to have that discussion. Too often people give mixed messages, and you think that you're reading off the same page, but I used to work with the folks who were Marines with the Marine Corps League in the Capitol Marines. And one of the things that they used to say is, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, and tell them again. Far too often you miss it because they didn't hear it. They didn't really understand what you said. So the Marines say you have to continue to say that so that it sits in their brain.
Right.
It sits there and it is comfortable. They've found a place that's comfortable in their brain for them to understand and move forward with that. And when they first said that to me, I was like, wait, what? It didn't make any sense to me. And I said, Marsha, because I'm not a Marine, right? Let's start there. But what they said made sense to me, because if you're trying to change somebody's mind, or you're trying to bring somebody new in, like you're, interviewing people, they have to really get an understanding of what they're supposed to be doing. And too often we're moving so fast, people don't always hear or grasp what we're saying.
Let me say something to you. First of all, you actually, believe it or not, Marsha, I think you just told me what happened to that young man, and I didn't realize it, because again, you say something, or somebody says something and puts pieces together for you. He said something to me when I downloaded with him, and then I downloaded with them. I couldn't figure out, and I think you just helped me figure out what happened. He said some things in the first interview they loved, and then when he had the second interview, he told me he didn't think he had to repeat certain things because he'd said it the first time.
that part.
And I think that's what went astray.
Mm-hmm.
Because was one interesting piece, how like you can feel something, or somebody says something to you and it's so innocent, but you say, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He said something to me and I thought it was a red flag. He said, I told them I was going to be in town, and I could easily come by and see them while I'm in town, because I'm in town for continuing education credits. Because he's a candidate from out of town, but he was going to be in this area. And they weren't like all like, yeah, come on by, we want to see you. They were like, well, we may be available, we're not sure. And I said, wait a minute, why would they not want to see him? They're supposed to be in love with him. But I kept that to myself when he said it. I said, something's not right here. And sure enough, I was correct. But you, believe it or not, you just said something that clicked with me. He thought because the first one went so well, he didn't have to repeat certain things in the second interview.
Okay, everybody, we'd like to welcome you to the David Byrd Show. First name is Doni, last name is Reverend Marsha Jews. Good morning.
Good morning,
Doni. Good morning.
We are having some challenges over here. Nonetheless, Marsha, did you vote?
What? What? Did I vote?
Yeah. Now, Marsha, this is a friendly interview. I just need you to know. David and I actually were born. We have the same birthday.
We have the same birthday.
Oh, okay. I need to. Okay. Let me protect myself over here. Let me protect myself over here.
Well, no truer words could have been spoken. So, and I'm waiting on a young man to join us, Jason Rodriguez.
Okay.
Donald Trump is the president, Marsha. Well, damn, it ain't that bad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, some people predicted that Trump would win.
I did, except I did not predict, and I'm gladly say it. I'll gladly admit it. I did not predict he would win the popular vote. I thought he would win the Electoral College like he did in 2016. My wife correctly predicted that he would win both the Electoral College and the popular vote. And I'll tell you why she correctly predicted and why I missed it. I missed it because I don't watch TikTok, Instagram, or those short, I watch from time to time those short reels, but I don't live in that universe. And my wife follows that universe, those social influencers, very carefully. And by spending about quite a bit of time in there, she predicted that he would win the popular vote. And I was caught off guard by that. I was very surprised.
David,
I wasn't.
I have to admit to you publicly, you were right. I was wrong. You were right. You predicted it. Normally I like to call it, but I gotta tell you, I was hoping. Was the subject the entertainer? He said, white people hope, black people wish.
And wait a minute, Donnie. And I also predicted that which was the vice president, her campaign were depending on. I correctly predicted that the majority of white females would stay with Donald Trump and vote for him again for the third election in a row.
Welcome to the show, Jason Rodriguez. How you doing?
Good morning. I apologize for my tardiness
today, Pharaoh, exiting the picture. I guess he knows it's about to go down. Jason, did you vote?
Of course I did. And I casted my vote for Jill Stein. I could not vote for anybody that would be in support of any genocide of the Palestinian people. So both candidates are strongly in support this ironclad relationship that we have with Israel. And Jill Stein and some of the other independent candidates were talking about ending the proliferation of weapons to Israel and ending the genocide of the Palestinian people. So yes, I voted.
So 75% of black men voted for Kamala. 90% of black women voted for Kamala. But David, you said your wife peeped a demographic that no one's talked about, black women who would not vote for Kamala.
No. I said, first of all, I predicted that majority of white females would vote for a third election for a row for Donald Trump. I predicted that back in August. That came to be true. I just can't figure out why, if they voted for him 2 elections in a row, that people thought that was going to switch. My wife predicted that he was going to win in the Electoral College. That he was going to get both the Electoral College and the popular vote. That's where I was completely off the rails. There were other. My other prediction, which was exceeded, was I thought that the most that Mr. Trump was going to get among black men was 15%. I didn't think he would extend that threshold because in 2016 he had gotten 13%. So I thought that his ceiling was 15. He actually got 21 and 5. I was shocked about that, but I was not shocked about the fact that the president and his campaign made a concerted effort to go after male vote men. They made a concerted effort at that. They went after Marsha. They went after the podcasters, the social media people who focus their audiences on men, specifically young men who feel that masculinity is under attack in this country, and Trump with his hyper masculinity and bravado, I think that's what attracted them to him.
One thing we have attempted to do on the show, and I really want to get into it today, is why did Kamala lose?
She was a bad candidate.
Thoughts?
She was a bad candidate. I hate to say that. She was a bad candidate.
A bad candidate and a bad message. Bad message.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The number one thing for everyone was the economy, jobs, inflation, whatever headline you want to give it. I think her campaign mistakenly, this goes back, and the New York Times wrote about this on the front page 2 Sundays ago about they're having problems with white females, which justified what I'd been saying for months. But I think they mistakenly thought women's rights, reproductive rights, abortion was number one, and it wasn't.
No.
Number one was the economy. Number two was the immigration migrant situation. And then number three, maybe, was abortion rights, reproductive rights.
Marsha Jews.
Yes.
Why did Kamala lose?
Kamala was too cheeky and too giggly. And a lot of the women that I've spoken to, friends of mine, that's not what we were looking for. And she would always have a giggle, and everything had a little laugh behind it. And this stuff is real serious. And we don't have time we do that at the Tea Party. We don't need to do that on stage when we're trying to get people to get out there and do the right thing and vote properly. And so her message got lost. It got lost to me. I was really disappointed because it was too much fun. She was having too much fun. And this was bigger than her personality.
Jason, why did Kamala lose?
So I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, unfortunately. So this really goes back to Joe. This really all starts with Joe. She lost because of Joe, because he acted too hastily in reference to stepping aside and allowing her to have more campaign time. I think also there was never really a support from Joe, from our understanding, and the if you want to call him the Judas of the Democratic parties, are starting to come out, and they're starting to go on the talk shows and the circuits, doing the circuit shows, and they're basically laying out a lot of faux pas that were made inside the campaign, including that there was never really any support for her from the beginning. They knew from earlier exit polling that she was struggling from the beginning. Originally, the demagogues, the top dogs of the party, Nancy Pelosi. There was even a discussion, from what we understand, with Bernie Sanders and others, and of course Barack and Michelle and all of them. There was a major conversation, and at the time, they were under the decision that this was going to be either an open primary or an open convention. Was the notion, from what we understand. They are spilling the tea about. And we know what ended up happening was that Joe kind of being, I guess, upset because they were chastising him in reference to his performance in the debate, and was asking him to step aside and let's have an open convention. I don't think that Joe was in agreement to that, based on all the information that's being shared by the inside political pundits. It's coming out that, unfortunately, that Joe basically threw her out there as basically to chastise the Democratic Party, to basically say in your face, you want to have an open primary. Well, here, I'm going to set things up. I'm going to stack the deck, and I'm going to put Kamala out there, even though you say that she's not the choice. Here, in your face, party, because he felt some sort of resentment or some sort of personal issue with the party coming down on him so hard, from what we're starting to learn and starting to understand. So there was never any support, according to Lindy Lee, from Joe Biden. You didn't really see him standing out there with her like that, campaigning for her like that. Joe was out of sight of her. They said that when they tried to get support from Joe, they never got support. So she was doomed from the beginning, because again, if you're going to win this as a VP, the best thing that you should have is, again, the person that you ran as a supporting partner of in a presidency. You should have that partner as a stakeholder in your presidency run. And Joe just was not there, because again, the belief was not there. And then what we understand is that Barack Obama, took several days to come out and to confirm him, because he had some sort of resentment or some issue. Nancy spilled it. A bunch of folks are spilling it, that he had some sort of issue in reference to her being presented as the choice, when originally the conversation may have been that it was supposed to be some sort of either open primary or some sort of open convention. So she never had a chance from the beginning. And unfortunately, I can go into the campaign faux pas. When I saw Megan Thee Stallion twerking, and I saw this, this elderly woman in the background with her eyes, looking like she was clutching her pearls in the background, because Megan Thee Stallion was twerking her behind, her buttocks, in her face. Like when I saw Cardi B, and I'm a Puerto Rican, I love and appreciate, the accomplishments of a stripper named Cardi B who became a rapper. But it's not somebody that I would say exemplifies some sort of greatness to be putting in front of a political campaign. You don't put people like Gorilla, who is a thug, trap rap artist, in a campaign venue. There were so many faux pas in reference to this. And then, not to mention the Barack Obama statements at Morehouse was inappropriate and not the right time. There was just so many faux pas in this campaign. She didn't have a chance. Whoever the campaign person was should never run another campaign again. Never. And I regress.
David, were you insulted by Barack Obama's appeal to black men?
I was not insulted, but I was taken aback by his comments and the way he delivered them. And then I was also taken aback by the ferocity of the backlash against him. Again, I go back to what I said, Donnie. I was caught off guard with some of the things that I saw happening, which makes me believe I'm an OG, and I'm glad I got off the field. And Marsha, now I'm glad I'm a coach, as opposed to taking the hard knocks actually on the field with some of these young folks, because I wasn't offended, but I was taken aback by it. And his attitude, if you go back and watch the tape, his attitude in his face when he's talking to them. And then I was taken aback by the ferocity of some of the people against him, including, which I watched in its entirety, Stephen A. Smith's comments about how he respected the former president, but he wasn't on board with what he said. And so I think what that showed me, and I made this comment to a very good friend of mine just the other day in a text, is that the deference to Barack Obama is over. I think for a while there was deference to him and what he said, but I think that deference is now gone.
Was it Marsha, a second black president too soon? It's my understanding that white people were still traumatized. One of our guests said that yesterday. That was it you, David?
It was.
The black, the white America is still traumatized by 8 years of a black president.
How dare you think that you could have all that melanin coming back again? How dare you think that you could have the audacity to have a woman, let alone one with melanin in her skin? How dare you think that you should be able to do what you want to do in the United States of America, when in fact that door is not open for us for real?
Jason, I think you called it. You said by 2045, black and brown people will outnumber white people. So this is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? The last hurrah.
Yeah, this is the last hurrah for white America. I mean, I was telling you the breakdown of the numbers. When you look at it, 53% of those represent white America. Now, if you look at the problem that we have in Puerto Rico, where you have over 60% of those on the island identify themselves as Caucasian or white, they don't even identify themselves as Hispanic. The numbers are actually, according to the census, are 75% white concentration. So what you're seeing is, even though there is some inclusion of other groups into the white category, technically, when you remove them, their numbers are diminishing.
Right.
That's why you see them, the white evangelical Christians attacking women's rights. It's not about women's rights. They care less about women's rights. What they care about
and it ain't about Jesus, right?
It ain't about Jesus either. They care
Okay,
less
but
about what Jesus believes in murder and death. And that's about preserving the white race, about white supremacy, about keeping their numbers high, because they know their numbers based on census data is diminishing. And they know that based on, the fact that you have immigrants coming from all over the world. You have mixed race families. You have mixed children being born into the world. Those mixed children are going out and having more mixed children. And in some cases, they're including themselves into the white community and having children with the white community. So more intergenerational, mixed race babies. So, the pool is being diluted in America, and this ideology, that was the thought and process from white colonialism, and white dominance and white supremacy is no longer going to be come 20 years or less from now. So this is what you see as the last hurrah, the last fight, to try to hold on. They're going to try to, stack all the decks, especially now. People talk about the red wave. The red wave is not really about the states. Everybody keeps looking at the red wave as capturing the states. It's not about capturing the states. It's about capturing all those different positions. They have the presidency, they have the House, they have the Senate, and they have several governor offices. And they'll have the opportunity to appoint another conservative Supreme Court justice. What'll end up happening is that they will stack the deck for the next 20 to 30 years to try to hold on to that white supremacy, that white dominance, while everything else in between, tries to come in, and diminish that. That's why you see they want to attack the border and deport people and things of that nature. All of that is in efforts of trying to preserve their dominance in America.
Are you buying that, David Byrd, that this is the last stands for white America?
No, because I'll actually pick up on a point that Jay said, is that, and he made it, and he actually made the point very well. But Hispanics are actually going to be honorary whites, because the Republican Party has shown or has not been able to break through to the Black community like they had once hoped for 20, 25 years ago. Yeah, they got 20% Black men, but that's not going to move the needle the way that they wanted to in the long run. At one time, they had hoped to get 35% of the Black vote. That's not going to happen. And so what's going to happen is they're moving more into the Hispanic community. Look what Mr. Trump did. 44% of Hispanics voted for him. And one of the biggest folks who are for the immigration policy border are other Hispanics, right? So therefore, they're going to be wind up, just like Jay said, they're marrying into the culture, shedding their surnames, they're going to become the honorary whites that's going to become part of the new majority in America.
I think that one of the biggest things that people will have to deal with is the fact that most men, particularly white males and Black males and any other color males, are not trying to have a woman in leadership at the top of the chain. And that's a reality. And so women have had to fight to get to where they are. They've had to go through all kinds of foolishness just to hold a position. And in many cases, there are too many people who do not want to see that. And Kamala was really cheeky. She was just cheeky and giggly, opposed to being in an environment where it's straight up, no chaser, and in your face. You needed a Nancy Pelosi kind of vibe in order for people to take that respect. And because if you look at the two and how Kamala came out, she made me so tired because everything was a giggle. She giggled. Literally, it was a giggle. And it made me crazy listening to her giggle. And the movement, the body movement, and how she carried herself was not that of somebody that I want to be the president of the United States. It's not some little organization that's on once a month, we're going to get together and have high tea. This is the presidency. You need to be able to deal with all of the leaders in the world. You need to be able to talk about how you're going to defend this nation. This is heavy duty stuff. And I'd love to have a woman in the White House, but it has to be a woman who is hardcore, ready to deal with that foolishness, ready to be able to call up the Marines and get them to do what they need to do. You can't come here with all of that giggle and expect me to vote for you, because I'm worried that you can't make a real decision. When it comes to it, it's life or death. That we are at war with some nation getting ready to drop bombs and stuff. What you gonna do? You still sitting there giggling. I don't want you giggling. I want you to
welcome you to the Donnie Glover
Straight
Show.
up.
I got a text the day after the election from Cornell. I think you know Cornell, David. And he said, told you offending the Islamic community caused losses in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. However, there are many other factors. Now I'm home minding my business, wiping my tears. Number one, a former prosecutor has not won the presidency in 100 years. David, you like history. People are not going to support people who jailed their friends and family. But they did vote for Angela Alsobrooks. Number two.
That was a perception. And again, if you really did the fact check, you would find that that wasn't true, that they included the overall numbers in California to her totals in reference to arrest. And that wasn't accurate.
But it's the perception. And
correct. It was the perception.
It's just like going to court. It's not Donnie, what you know, it's what you can prove.
And Donnie, I would say about Miss Alsobrooks, she wasn't running from a law enforcement position when she was running for the Senate.
County executive.
County executive. You're right. If she had been running from the prosecutor's spot as Prince George's County State's attorney, might have been maybe it had been closer, but it might have been, who knows?
Number two, Kamala needed a strong voice to partner with her on the ticket. Day one, I said that Joe Manchin should have been the pick. Instead, Kamala picked Soupy Sales. Number three.
Now, come on. I grew up watching Soupy Sales and I liked him.
I have no idea what Soupy Sales is. Jason, you know what Soupy Sales is?
Yeah, it goes back.
Huh?
It goes way back.
It goes.
There must be some kind of Baltimore stuff. I ain't never heard of those Soupy Sales.
Soupy Sales. Well, if I can take 30 seconds, Donnie, Soupy Sales was a character on early morning TV that kids used to watch. And he was a comedian, you know, told jokes, but they were for kids. And it was very funny when I was 5 years old.
Okay, number three, I've been in the company of Black people who had big difficulties in supporting Kamala. First, they don't accept that she is Black. Second, older Black women were offended by her giggling and shaking her ass at public events. They didn't see her as a statesman. So many reasons. SHIT, all is set up anyway.
I think all of those are I think all of that is fair comment.
No
I think, but here's another thing. Here, I'll go back to, and Jay alluded to this earlier in his comments, and I'll go even further. Nobody voted for her, right? She wasn't battle tested. You know, first of all, she dropped out of the 2020 primaries before a single primary. She got put on the ticket, selected by Joe Biden. Then he drops out after the debate. And he doesn't say, well, hey, let's go to the convention, and anybody who thinks they can be president, let the delegates decide. No, she was shoved in people's face and said she's the nominee. And so nobody had ever voted for her, right?
So that's like taking an untested weapon into war.
Right.
That's exactly right. And now you push the button for the first time and you say, gee whiz, why didn't the missile lift off?
But why was she even there in the first place? Why was she even there in the first place?
Right.
As
I mean,
vice
you were
president. Seriously.
You were sixth place, in the last primary. You weren't likable then. What changed in 4 years to present her? You had 41 million people voted for Joe Biden, and that was the choice. As a matter of fact, what was interesting was when I was looking at poll numbers before and after, well, Joe was leading in a lot of places. Some places where he was up, 9 and 10% or more, as soon as she stepped in, she was 4%, 3%. And that was too close of a margin and right at the margin of error. So I knew that, this campaign was in jeopardy from the start, but you also forgot in that listing of Muslim states, you forgot Detroit. Detroit was the original dissension when they tried to get on the floor of the DNC, of the convention, and they just wanted to just have a moment to speak in support of, and of course they probably want to say something in reference to the Palestinian people in Gaza, but they didn't allow that to happen. And then they tried to organize a meeting with her and still didn't get a meeting later on. So,
So is it possible that her husband is Jewish? Could that have been a smack in the face of those people around the country who have been protesting on behalf of Palestine?
Again,
sure, that could have. I'm sure that played a role with some people. I mean, to ignore that would be that you'd be ignoring reality. I'm sure that played a role in it, and he was a boogeyman for other things too. I mean, it wasn't just that. He was a boogeyman for people who don't like interracial relationships. Okay,
that's a whole nother piece.
That's a whole nother piece.
Yeah. That's even going back to the Barack Obama comment. I think where it came off as offensive was the comments that I saw in Black Twitter or Black X, was folks were saying, well, how dare he make this comment from someone who grew up from white grandparents and a white mother, and he doesn't know anything about a Black mother. It was these kind of things that these optics that to me shaved off points here and there. Some of the Muslim vote, some of the folks that didn't believe she was Black, some of the votes that believed some of the stories that Judge Joe Brown was telling. And I told you, Doni, yesterday.
Who? Judge Joe?
Judge Joe Brown and Candace.
What did Judge Joe say?
So Candace Owens, first started with this, 8-part, 9-part series because D.L. Hughley, had racially troped Janet Jackson and said that, that her, not saying that, Kamala is a Black woman, she's saying this while speaking through a white person's nose, through a white woman's nose. And so Candace Owens decided to do this, series, unlimited series on Kamala's background and invited Judge Joe Brown on. And Judge Joe Brown, for at least an hour and some change, spilt the beans into he said that, she was a lazy prosecutor. She was a lazy lawyer, that her father personally told him that he was Irish, that he was Irish Indian, that he was not of any African descent, and that he called her the casting couch vice president. And
the what?
The casting couch vice president.
Oh, casting couch. When you first said, I thought you said casket couch.
No,
casting couch.
Wow.
Casting for a Broadway show.
Right.
We ain't casting for a Broadway show. Those who might be familiar in the pornographic community, they use that terminology, casting couch. These girls will come into these so-called studios for the porno sets, and they would get interviewed. And by the time the end of the interview is concerned, they would be disrobed, and engaged in fellatio and in some other
Well, okay, we get it, we get it. This is a non-porno crowd.
And that's what he was calling her. And I had to ask the elders.
That's a lot.
I had to go to the elders and I said, look, Baba, Mama, give me some guidance here. You have Judge Brown saying this, and blasting this over the airwaves. I'm pretty sure that this is not helping her. And they would tell me, they said, well, look, Judge Joe Brown is a drunk, he's not to be taken credibly. And I'm like, but he didn't seem drunk or belligerent or anything on the interview. He seemed sober, right-minded, very clear, shared some information about the CIA, and America's involvement in over, tens of thousands of murders of world leaders and all kinds of stuff, and shared all kinds of information in reference to Dr. King and JFK. So I asked the Babas and them, I said, well, am I to discredit all that information that he said too? When all that stuff could be looked up and validated, we know the FBI was directly involved in Dr. King's killing. And he had direct involvement, he says, in the investigation or the trial or the case Judge Joe Brown claims he had some sort of involvement in. So are we to discredit everything that he says? Or is this man speaking truth to power and really telling you the truth about this woman that unfortunately is being presented? And I, Donnie, I started getting these flashbacks of, I'm an independent, but Sarah Palin kept coming up in my head. You keep trying to dress a pig with lipstick on and trying to tell me it's something else, but it still ended up being a pig at the end of the day. When you look at all the evidence that was presented, it was just like Hillary. I called Hillary bag lady back then. It wasn't that we didn't want a woman. It's that all the baggage that she had with Benghazi and everything and the email gate and everything that was going on, it was like, it's just the wrong choice. Present somebody to America that, again, exemplifies some greatness, has some great ethnics, has a great history. Present a Michelle Obama to us already. Present somebody like that. Present, where's the next Shirley Chisholm? These are women with integrity. These are women with power. That's when you talk about, my dear sister, you talk about somebody that exemplifies some sort of chief executive leadership. Those are the people that I think of.
A CEO, somebody who has the wherewithal and the courage, not only the courage, but the carriage to be able to navigate every environment that you are in. As a woman, and especially a woman of color, and I'm a Black woman, you need to understand how to play those games in those rooms. Correct. You need to be able to stand in front of somebody who is a racist white person and be able to stand toe to toe, straight up, no chaser.
Or misogynist dictator.
And you have to be able to stand there straight up. And there's no giggling to this. It's war, basically. What is that when you got the card game and you put all this stuff down? I declare war, because this is what we need, right?
That's an old game. That's right.
It's an old game, but it's real. And you need to be able to have that infrastructure ready to go. You need to be able to stand up toe to toe. You need to be eyeball to eyeball. I don't need to see you laughing and giggling. I want to see your face, because you're a warrior.
Correct.
And you're going to president of the United States of America. That's what you want to be. And you got to deal with all these misogynistic people around the world that are going to come after you, and you want to giggle. I don't want you in there.
Yeah.
I relinquish.
And Donnie, the thing is, I had a whole bunch of folks from the military, and this is Black men that kept coming to me that just said they didn't see her as commander in chief, that they feel, when you're dealing with these world dictators, when you're dealing with, Putin and Netanyahu and some of these folks, they just didn't see that commander in chief, poise from her. They saw too much laughing and giggling. And I think that she didn't understand that she has to step up to that role. That's okay, probably for a vice president role. But now that you're going to step up into a role that, again, this is the most powerful country in the world, and I think that's what people are not understanding. The reason why we probably have not seen a woman yet, it's not that we're not ready for a woman, is that this woman has to be ready to be the leader of the most powerful country of the world and deal with all these other misogynistic, Islamic Sharia law and all these other, misogynistic cultures and things that they have to deal with as a leader. I don't think that she was just at that position, at that level. Like I said, when I think of somebody, I think of somebody again, like, our old leaders, and Maxine Waters. That's
Yes,
somebody that
a
I know has
warrior.
the tenacity.
A warrior.
A
She's
warrior.
Maxine did not play. She did
Right.
not. She don't play with
They ain't gonna
nobody.
play with Kim Jong-il.
No.
It's not. She's not gonna play with North Korea.
Mm-mm.
She's not gonna be writing love letters to North Korea.
Straight up in your face.
Right. That's the type of black woman that we
Yeah.
need. If a woman,
Yeah.
or even a white woman, I don't even know if there's a white woman out there necessarily, because I only really pay attention
That
to
would be that would be Nancy Pelosi, because Nancy ain't playing
Yeah.
either.
Nancy has some
don't be
baggage with her
playing.
too, though. But
Well, we all got baggage.
Right.
The reality is how can you stand strong down there in the Capitol? Can you stand strong in front of the people who are making decisions, all males? And how can you walk through all of that?
I think Shirley Chisholm was the right person, but I think it was the wrong era, wrong time.
That's right.
If she had been that person that was at this
then.
position and this time, she would be president of this country. No doubt about it.
Comfortably.
That's a black woman that I would vote for.
Well,
any day.
You've got some others that are still here that I think one of the things we should be thinking about is how do we start grooming male and female to get into these positions? I don't
know, but I'll tell you this: when you go to a fight, you better have a gun. If you take a knife to a gunfight,
you out.
You're going to lose. The Democratic Party did not have a plan. They went out there not realizing, whatever the case, the white people's last hurrah, what have you, racism, sexism,
all of it.
The Democratic Party was not ready for war
at all.
No,
not at all.
I even used the example of P.T. Barnum. A lot of folks don't understand. P.T. Barnum was not just, one of the founders of what we know as the American circus and the sideshow, but he was a U.S. representative. He was a state representative for Connecticut. And he really understood. He's the one that really mastered American white pop culture. I keep telling folks that. And that's what you saw with Trump was nothing but white pop culture, a reality TV star, the fame and fortune, lifestyles of the rich and famous. He's been in all the celebrity circles before they started demonizing him, and casting him out. He's been on everybody's platform and was supported by almost everybody and is giving money to almost everybody's campaign. So, he is pop culture, Americana pop culture right now for white America. And we don't understand that they have the dominance in this country right now. And the talk of division that I'm hearing and the talk of separation, Black women talking about, or women in general talking about shaving their heads off and not giving any to the men and not having children. And I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing anyway until we get married. But in this situation, they're claiming separation from men. You have, folks talking about separating themselves from the Hispanic community and things like that. That's not really reality of America. I give you an example. I'm a Puerto Rican. I'm a Afro-Latino. And I, in Baltimore City, fight for reparations. I know the history. I can go back to the Ark and the Dove and tell you that ever since Maryland has been settled, indigenous people and folks of color have never had an opportunity in this state. And I can give you numerous times in legislation to where reparations is due and owed to the state of Maryland. Why would you want to cast out somebody like me from the community? Again, that's an advocate for the community and an adversary of the community, fighting for the community. Why would you want to separate yourself from us when we should be building strong coalitions of like-minded community folks, whether they be white, Jewish, Black, Hispanic, whatever have you? We all come together and we fight what the real enemy is, which is white dominance, white supremacy, the systematic and systemic issues in America that we still see persistent through people like Donald Trump.
Jason, let me get a word in here from the Jason Rodriguez show. Last summer, I got an invite to the vice president's house. She was having a hip hop party. I was insulted, actually. I didn't go. I ended up not going because when I go to see the president or the vice president. I want to hear about Black business. I want to hear about reversing mass incarceration. I want to hear about money for public education.
Yeah.
I don't go to the White House or to the vice president's house to see Dougie Fresh. I can do that easily on my own. And so I was insulted because I'm wondering, why is this being shoved down my throat?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they think, as Mo has stated here, that Black people are dumb. But me, myself, don't invite me for a concert.
Mm-mm.
Don't try to serve me fried chicken and watermelon.
Mm-mm.
Talk about the issues that are relevant to our community. So, David, you started this yesterday. I got to commend you. You predicted it. I ran your op-ed pieces before the election, although it was painful. But I had to put it out there. And truth be told, David, knowing you since 2002 and mindful of the Republican Revolution here in Maryland, where Black people finally decided to go with something other than the Democratic Party. I saw Coppin State, now University, get more money than it's ever gotten before. I saw West North Avenue start to get some attention. Under Hogan, I saw West North Avenue establish the West North Avenue Development Authority. To the current governor's credit, Westmore, they put in $28 million. Now, mind you, this includes Penn North. Next year will be the 10th anniversary since Freddie Gray. I see Mo was saying he was an advocate. Next year will be the 10th year since Freddie Gray. Big ups to Senator Antonio Hayes, who grew up 2 blocks from Penn North, who did not forget his neighborhood. But David, you started all of this yesterday, and so let's give you some shine. You were right, I was wrong, but I respect you because, you know, a lot of Black Republicans we don't like. We actually, if we see them on the street, we want to like just go ahead and put them up. But you born on 627. I know you ain't even gonna play that. And your wife's strapped. I know she's strapped. And Kamala should have ran with that. She said, "No, I'm strapped." But she stopped. She, you know, like, are you really strapped? Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, listen, here's some simple things, right? Real simple things. And this goes back to, you know, the James Carville 1992.
Mo, let's be respectful. Sorry.
It's James Carville 1992. It's The Economy Stupid. Is that when people can't pay their light bill, phone bill, gas bill, mortgage, you know, house note, car note, there's only one place that they can take it out on, and that's at the ballot box. And that's what people did on election day. People are still hurting. Yes, the numbers look good. Yes, everything's getting better. But the average guy down there in Baltimore City, you know, is he able to, is it looking good in his world? Are the jobs there? They disappearing, you know, or does he have to have some type of technical expertise now just to fill out an application to work at McDonald's, right? Because you can't walk into McDonald's anymore and fill out an application. They'll tell you go online and fill out your application online.
Well, go online. We on TikTok all day anyway.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for including me. Thank you for including me. I got a meeting I have to go to.
Marsha,
and I'm gonna have to run right with Marsha, but I would say this again, is that, hey, I saw the trend, right? I think too much people focused on what Trump did, what he's done in terms of his faux pas, everything. People didn't care about that, right? People didn't care about none of that. You know why? Because they were hurting. If the economy was doing well, it would have been a totally different story. But when you have mortgage rates in 4 years go from 3.5 to 7.2, okay, and gas go from 189, 199 to, you know, to 335, which I paid last week, right? That's a big difference. And people don't forget that. And there's only one place that they can take it out on you, because this isn't the OK Corral, Donnie. You can't put out your 6-shooter and start shooting around, although some people think it is. So they take it out at you on the ballot box. And that's what they did.
David Byrd, we're going to see you at the Black Wall Street Soiree on December the 5th. Marsha Jews is co-hosting. Jason's getting ready to plug it all over Radio 1. This is our annual event. Got some great honorees coming out. Downtown Baltimore, December the 5th, the Black Wall Street Soiree. We celebrate Black entrepreneurs and professionals, as well as the people who support them regardless of race. Thank you all. I love you all. Jason, powerful show.
Yes, it was
Marsha,
wonderful.
David,
Thank you.
Good morning, world.
Good stuff, Jason. Good stuff.